Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. Everything's getting back to normal around here, back from Insomnia 60, back from Combat South playing Airsoft on the weekend, Mingles with Jingles is up, Airsoft video is up, time to get back into the normal swing of things with World of Tanks, and I'm showing you a Churchill 3 replay today. And the reason I'm showing you a Churchill 3 replay is because I think this is a very underrated tank. I have my highest XP earned in a battle record in this machine, 2,887 experience, which is not bad for a tier 5. The Churchill 3 does get a teeny little bit of an experience modifier, which is one of the reasons why I really like this tank as an experience farming machine. This, of course, is the Tier 5 Soviet Churchill 3, and no, Russia didn't go building Churchills during World War II, but after Germany invaded, when Russia was on the bones of her arse, Britain couldn't commit troops, not directly, certainly wasn't ready to open a second front after Dunkirk, but what Britain could do was prioritise sending tanks to Russia over even equipping the British Army with tanks, and we sent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these Mark III Churchills to Russia, and the Russians kind of liked it. We sent them hundreds of Matildas as well. They didn't think too much of those. The tracks were too narrow, they were constantly getting bogged down in the snow and mud in Russia, and they were horribly unreliable. But the Churchills, they quite like the Churchills. And I always recommend the Churchill Mark III to new players. If they're looking for a starter premium tank to get some experience and credits under their belt, this is definitely the tank I always recommend. In fact, I've recommended it this weekend at the Insomnia Gaming Festival. One young man in particular, must have been 13 or 14 years old, never played World of Tanks before in his life. Sitting down on one of the gaming PCs, he said, "Help, what do I do?" I said, "Pick a Churchill 3. All you have to do is get 2 kills and you walk away with a goodie bag from the event." Never played World of Tanks before, sat behind him, coached him through the game. In the Churchill 3, 3 kills in his first ever game of World of Tanks. This tank's pretty much idiot-proof. Lots and lots of strong frontal armour, although there are weak spots. The gun doesn't do a lot of damage, but just look at the rate of fire. This is the 6-pounder. Funnily enough, it also has a somewhat historical ammunition load here in World of Tanks. You'll notice that it's armour-piercing, or premium armour-piercing composite rigid. It doesn't get any high explosive ammunition. The 6-pounder is a 57mm gun, hence the low alpha damage but the high rate of fire. And it was a very good anti-tank gun, but it had terrible high explosive ammunition. You can't pack an awful lot of high explosive filler into the warhead of a 57mm shell. This tank did have 57mm high explosive ammo, but it was so bad that they just never bothered issuing it. Which was kind of strange, because the Churchill was an infantry tank. It was designed to keep pace with the infantry, and if you're an infantry support tank, what you really need is high explosive ammunition, because armour-piercing anti-tank ammunition is no good for taking out machine gun nests, or bunkers, or trench lines full of hostile infantry. So yeah, an infantry support tank that didn't have infantry support ammunition. In fact, the Churchills fired more smoke shells than they ever fired high explosive shells. The first time the Mark III Churchill armed with a 6-pounder gun was ever used in action was during the disastrous August 1942 commando raid on the German-occupied French Atlantic port of Dieppe. Just over 6,000 Allied troops, most of whom were Canadian, although there were also 50 US Army Rangers and 1,000 British troops, as well as the Calgary Regiment of the 1st Canadian Tank Brigade, were committed to the raid. The objective was first to see if it could be done, second to capture intelligence, and then on retreating to destroy fortifications, knock out gun batteries, and so on and so on. Virtually none of the objectives were met. The German garrison, numbering 1,500 infantry under the command of General Gerd von Rundstedt, who would later become a field marshal, absolutely annihilated the attacking forces. They never even got off the beach. Canadians suffered 3,500 casualties, killed, wounded, or taken prisoner. Every single one of the Mark III Churchills was knocked out on the beach. The raid was a complete disaster, although valuable lessons were learned for D-Day, but D-Day wasn't going to happen for another 2 years, and it certainly wasn't the most auspicious baptism of fire for the Mark III Churchill. 6 Mark III Churchills were later deployed to North Africa, where they took part in the Battle of El Alamein and did substantially better, knocking out 5 German tanks and 3 anti-tank guns for the price of 1 Churchill. Meanwhile, back in the battle, Eternal Haze is attempting to reset the cap here, and there's a potential top gun up for grabs if he can nail that M40L in the cap circle. He should be able to get there in time. There isn't really anywhere for that poor old M40 to go, and it looks like he has abandoned the cap when he saw these two rumbling towards him. Meanwhile, the other M4 Sherman on the team is engaged in a fight with the enemy Mark I Churchill further back in the town. No sign of the M40, he's obviously ducked into cover up around this rock, and the M4 Sherman that was fighting the Churchill in the town has been taken out. The first Sherman was on his way back to assist him, but it's a little bit too late now. And that means that Eternal Haze has this M40 all to himself, and there's just no way this M40 can possibly deal with the Churchill from the front. He really should. Well, he doesn't really have anywhere to go, this poor guy. He backs up, the Sherman's going to get him. And if he stays where he is, well, Eternal Haze just got himself a top gun. So, 2 of them left, 4 enemies. And he has been spotted, so there is going to be, there it is, some incoming artillery fire. And there's the enemy Churchill. Eternal Haze busy yelling at that M4 Sherman, fall back, don't try and take that guy out by yourself. And yeah, 1 more hit and the M4's done. Eternal Haze is trying to get down there as fast as he can. He's aided by the fact that he is at least going downhill, reaching some dizzying speeds. If he's not careful, the driver's going to get a nosebleed. It's not often a Mark III Churchill gets to go as fast as this. And it looks like the M4 Sherman has listened to reason, and he's fallen back. And this should, especially because he has the APCR loaded here, and he has far more health than the Mark I Churchill. They're both tier 5s, 1 premium, 1 not. He should be able to handle the Churchill, providing he's not being backed up by the Stug. And he's asking the M4 to go and find the Stug, and yeah, he's got it. Kill number 7. And by the sounds of it, artillery's missed him again, which is always gratifying. Winston Churchill himself said there's nothing more satisfying in combat than being shot out and missed. Old Churchill was a witty old bugger. He had some really choice turns of phrase. My personal favourite, I can't remember exactly what the circumstances were. He was meeting a political opponent or ally, I can't remember, called at his house, and was made comfortable by the man's wife while he was waiting for the man himself to come down and speak to him. She was offering him tea, and she absolutely detested Winston Churchill. She said to him, "Sir, if you were my husband, I would poison your tea." To which Winnie replied, "Madam, if you were my wife, I would drink it." Oh, they found one of the artillery. There's a potential Pools medal up for grabs here. Sherman, don't do it. You've been spotted. He's going to be waiting for you, or if he doesn't do it, then the Stug or the... yeah, that was fairly predictable. 1 against 3. Shots coming in from the side, that's got to be the Stug. Can't see him, but he can definitely see you. There's the artillery, it's just missed. Come on. There are not many vehicles that a Mark III Churchill can win a game of chasey, catchy, killy with. The Su-26 is one of them. Yeah, he's got it, and he took a hit from the birch gun there on the turret, but it didn't do a huge amount of damage. And then a second shot comes in from the birch gun. He's not actually detected at this point, and that's some remarkably good guesswork on the behalf of the birch gun. These shots are not missing by much. The first time I watched this replay, I thought that he was still detected based on how accurate the birch gun's fire was. But no, there we go, he's just been detected there. He's got the birch gun bang to rights. Of course, that means that the Stug is now able to start putting some effective fire into him. You can't see exactly where the Stug is, but you can see where the shots are coming from. The Churchill side armour is not fantastic, and there he is. Now he's got the APCR loaded. The Stug does have up to 80mm of frontal armour in places. And the thing about this 57mm gun is it will fire faster than it aims. So, yeah, he's managed to force the Stug to back off. And it's going to take him 2 shots with good damage rolls to finish that Stug off, and the Stug only needs 1 good damage roll to finish him off, and the Stug catches him in the worst possible position, sideways on, crossing the bridge. But, plot twist, the Stug has run out of armour-piercing ammunition, and only has high explosive left. And so Eternal Haze gets his 10th kill for a Pools medal on Windstorm in the Mark III Churchill. And while we're taking a look at the post-battle results, another little bit of historical trivia for you regarding the 6-pounder gun on the Mark III Churchill. It was also a very, very popular gun with, believe it or not, the US Army. No, really, it was. The primary anti-tank gun of the US Army in the early stages of World War II was a 37mm towed anti-tank gun, and well, by the time America got involved in the land war in Europe, that was getting to be very, very long in the tooth. And so they were looking around for a replacement towed anti-tank gun, and the British 6-pounder was it. 15,000 of these things were built for the US Army. It was known in US service as the 57mm anti-tank gun M1. Initially issued to airborne units like the 82nd Airborne and the 101st Airborne, and did well enough in the anti-tank role that huge numbers of them were built and issued to the tank destroyer battalions attached to the other US Army armoured and infantry divisions. Still didn't have a very good high explosive round though. In fact, at first the Americans had to borrow high explosive ammunition from the British who just weren't using it. So there you go. Not a lot of people know that. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Eternal Haze in the Mark III Churchill on Windstorm, running up a cricket score against the enemy team. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.